Investigation is important. Investigation that will lead to wisdom. Wisdom, what is wisdom? Is insight. Don't confuse it with knowledge or with understanding. The nature of avijja is trying to understand. Trying to understand but not understanding. Trying to know but not knowing. This is the nature of avijja. And with investigation we want to develop wisdom that goes contrary to knowledge, contrary to understanding. Or if you have the two words, understanding. One thing is the understanding with the heart, and one thing is the understanding with our brains. The understanding with our heart we call insight, or we call wisdom. And once the heart understands it, lets go on its own. As long as you still understand it within the realms of avijja or within the realms of conventional reality, you still are not able to let go. It still bothers you. It still comes up and comes up and comes up. Insight is the only cure. Seeing inside. So, we have to learn to see inside. So we have to question actually the understanding that comes up. Question and ask what it is. What is pain, What is it? What's the true nature of pain? What's the true nature of the body? Visualize it, see it, look through it, go through it, put it in bits and pieces, disassemble it. You have to do that until the heart understands, until the chitta really understands. It's not a playing game. The moment we open it up, it hurts. The feeling of hurt comes up. A feeling of unpleasant comes up. A feeling of loathsomeness comes up. And then we know we're doing the work right. Unless we are just playing around with it. We are playing around with it in the realms of avijja. And that, as long as we are under or in the realm of avijja, we will not get any fruits. So we have to learn it. And certainly when we are monks, we have to learn it. It's the only way how we can keep sane. Sane in the sense, sane at the power of raga tanha, the power of sensual craving. Because this tool actually gives us, or is a tool, to cut down raga tanha. Sensual gratification, it cuts down. The moment we have some sensual gratification, like we want to eat something or drink something, and then we open up our stomach, and then we have not the slightest sense of doing it anymore. Understand this? It's a tool. And it's the same thing for sexuality. It cuts down immediately on our sexual desires. Just open up or just tear off the skin. Just look at the fat, at the greasy fat, the yellow thing. It's such a disgusting nature. Once you tear off the skin or once you take off the skin, you see that greasy fat. You're not interested. Avijja is not interested in this greasy fat, and avijja is only interested in the nice skin. Nice skin in the nice form that builds up a female body or a male body. The moment it sees the grease and the blood and the sinews and the bones, it's not interested anymore. So this is the only tool we have if you want to battle against raga tanha. You have to develop it. Otherwise you will lose out on this battle. And losing out, that means for people who are ordained, they will lose out and disrobe. Or people who are not ordained, you will go back in the world. Back to look for the other sex. Because that's what is so deeply ingrained within us. The other sex. Looking out for comfort or for this or for that. for our sexual desire. And if we don't have a tool at our hands that we can use any time to cut down, then we will be lost. We have to battle, and it's very difficult. So we have to develop it, and it's not done within a few days. We need to develop a lot of skill. Understand it. One thing is to bring up nimittas of the inner body. And let's just tour through the body and look at the body, what kind of organ is interesting enough. This organ we take, or this part we take, and then we visualize it. Once we have a fair visual image, it doesn't need to be very clear, but as long as we can see it with our inner eyes, then we disassemble it. And try to find the true nature. Disassemble it means cutting it up or put some fire on it or let it dissolve or whatever. We have to do all things. And it really has to have some effect. And it will have some effect if we really do it correctly. Unpleasant feelings are coming up, and when we do it long enough, then there is quite a lot of hate coming up. Feelings of hate. Very unpleasant feelings. And that actually means that we are doing the work correctly. We have to deal with these unpleasant feelings that come up and see them for what they are. Unpleasant feelings are unpleasant feelings. They arise and they cease. We don't have to flee from them, like we don't have to flee from pain, or we don't have to flee from pleasant feelings, the same thing. Only then we can say we do it correctly. That means we have to do it really realistically. If you don't get any realistic in your dissection, in your disassembling of the body, then just use a saw and saw up your body. And if it doesn't hurt, then you're just playing around. It gives you a shiver when you just put the saw at the tip of the skin, and then just look at it, and the blood flows out. And it hurts when the flesh. When you saw up the flesh and then the bones and so on. And once you disassemble it in this way, then look at the faces that you see. And look at each thing that you see. It's so clear, it's so vivid. Or tear off your skin, just use a very sharp knife and start cutting your skin apart. And then slowly tear it off your face or tear it off your body, and then look inside what it is there. And then look at the skin from inside and from outside. And the moment you use a sharp knife, and the blood flows, and it will hurt. It even hurts within our imagination. We don't have to do it for real. It really hurts and really gives us a disgusting feeling. You have to do it really realistically. Otherwise it's not useless. It's just playing around. And doing realistically, gives us a tool at hand. The moment, we are endangered by our sensual pleasures, our sensual senses, then we use it. Just like we are using Buddha or the breath to substitute anything that comes in our mind. We learned this. It's a useful tool. It's called replacement. Replacement of an unpleasant thought with Buddha. Replacement of an unpleasant feeling with the attention of the breath, coming in and going out. Then there are no more thoughts coming in, and there are no more memories coming in. So it stops. And the same thing we have to do with our sensual desires. So we put it to a stop. We replace it with something that we don't want to see. Like I said, when we feel hungry, we just think about the stomach. Look all the food that is still in the stomach, where it rots away. And the smell is disgusting. You know it all. You all pooped before. You know how disgusting this is, the food that is in the stomach. And that cuts down on the greed for eating, or that cuts down on the greed for drinking. The tools are not developed without any purpose. The purpose is to cut down on the sensual desires, because the sensual desires root in this body. And it is the root of greed and hate. Greed and hate comes from this body, and with it comes the sensual desires. And we want to get rid of it. Otherwise we are torn between one life and two lives, or torn between this and torn between that, because we like this or we dislike that. And this to be torn apart, this is the dukkha we are facing constantly. Get to know the body. If you disassemble it and put all the bits and pieces in front of you, to understand that the citta and the body are two different things, you have to do this exercise not only one time, or 10 times. If you think you understand, you just ask yourself, what kind of understanding do I have? Because this kind of understanding is taking place within our mind. It's not useful. Once the citta understands it, let's go. So we have to develop the facility. We have to develop the ability to let the citta understand. And once the citta sees, and the more often it sees how loathsome this body is, or how disgusting the nature of the body is. If you take away the skin, it becomes immediately disgusting. Next time you look in the mirror, just look at yourself. You're without skin. You don't like to look very long. So the skin is what fools us the most. It's a form that gives us the form, the skin and the hair on the skin, and the teeth, and the nails. That's why these are the 5 outside parts of the body that we have to investigate thoroughly. Because that's what makes things attractive or unattractive. So when we take them away, only a mass of disgusting things are shown up. Something we just don't want to see. Something we don't want to hug. We don't even want to touch it. There's not the slightest volition to touch it. Because it's such a disgusting nature. But this is the nature we live in. It's just this little sheet of paper, or this little sheet, very thin sheet of skin, that separates us from the truth. But we fall for it. Every time we fall for it. So take it off yourself and take it off other people. And use, if you don't get any feelings, use raw methods, just to get a feel. Take a saw and saw it up in bits and pieces, and look at the surface that come up. Very clearly, you see it, very clearly. You see the flesh, you see the blood, you see the vessels, you see everything, you see the bones. And the skin and the fat and everything. It just pops up very clearly in our eyes, in our inner eyes. And it hurts. The moment we just put it on, the moment we want to distract ourselves, it hurts. Just the idea hurts. And that's why it's useful. And that's why we have to develop it. Or take the body as a whole. Ask yourself, what is this body? The body is made up of parts. Once we disassemble it in parts, where is the body? Really, where is this body? Ask yourself, is the brain the body? Or is the lungs the body? Or is the heart the body? Or what is it? Or is it the vessels? Or is it the bones? Or whatever? Put them out clearly in front of you, to see it, and then ask yourself, what is the body? Once the body is out, it doesn't sit on the place where we practice. So, and who knows about all these parts? This is the citta. But this citta still yet does not understand that the body and the citta are two different things. So we have to show it very often. So we have to disassemble this body very often. Or we have to show it the true nature very often. And one time it will click. It's not something that we cannot do. It's not an option. This kind of investigation of the body is not an option. It's absolutely fundamental, absolutely necessary for us if we want to progress on the way. And if you think about how long it takes with this investigation of the body, it will take up till the stage of anagami. Sotapanna, Sakadagami and anagami. They are passed in between this body investigation. So it will take a long time. Only when we reach the stage of anagami, the contemplation of the body is gone. Because then only then, the citta completely understands it. If it doesn't yet understand it, if it still latches to this body, then you still have work to do. Don't think, after 10 times or 100 times you're bored, oh yes, I understand it now. You haven't understood this thing. Because the understanding doesn't take place in our brains. So how can we understand? We can only understand, or we can only make the heart understand. Or we can only make the citta understand. And once the citta understands, it will let go. And then it's clearly written in the heart. And that is something very different from what we assume it is. Make it real. Make it realistic. And learn it. It's a skill. In the beginning, of course, it takes a long time. We can use all sorts of methods. Investigating the pain is one thing. Disassembling the body into its bits and pieces is another thing. Question and disassemble the organs is another thing. Question our own understanding is another thing. What is this? What is this? Huh? And once the moment an answer comes up, you question this. What does this mean? What does this mean? Yeah? Until there is no answer. Until our heart is completely empty. Empty of answers. That means avijja has run out of wits. And that's why we use this method. We want avijja to run out of wits. We want avijja to run out of all these precomposed answers that it has already. Of course, yes, this is like this. Of course, yes, this is like that. It's all precomposed answers. Question, what does it mean? Until there's no answer appearing. And maybe then the true answer comes out of our heart. And this is true understanding, or this is insight. And once we get the insight, it makes it easier. The levels of insight will increase the more we do our work. When we start practicing in line with the Buddha, we are not there for the pleasant things. We are therefore to understand the true nature. We're not wanting to produce any good feelings. We want to understand the true nature. We want to cross dukkha. That is our main concept, our main perspective. We want to cross dukkha. And because dukkha is associated, we're closely associated with what we like and what we dislike. We have to understand the nature of dislike and like. It's the understanding the nature of greed and hate. And because we love this body, and we had so many bodies in our millions of lives, or even billions of lives, so we are so attached to it. So it will take a long time to attach or detach. When you look at the scriptures, what the Lord Buddha asked his monks, all what he asked his monks is, living in austerity, and even proposing the Dhutangas, the more austere practices, not to sleep or not to eat or eat little, and so on and so on, to live only with 3 robes even when it's cold. It's not all, he didn't do it, for us to get pleasant feelings. He did it for us to understand the true nature. What is the true nature of cold? What is the true nature of pain? What is the true nature of hunger? To understand these things. That was his purpose. Well, if it's just only for the pleasant sensation, well, then we are certainly not going the path that leads to the end of all dukkha, not the path that leads to liberation. He told us to go into frightening places, to cope with fear. He told us to go in lonely places, to cope with the loneliness and fear and dread, and so on and so on. He didn't say, we should go into the towns, into the music halls and entertain ourselves, to have pleasant feelings. But he said, there's a place where we can take a rest from our work, like everybody does in the world does take a rest from his work, when he goes to sleep. And it's the same thing for us. And that for us is the rest, is samadhi. It's either upachara samadhi or appana samadhi. And it's a place where we do have nice feelings, or pleasant, very pleasant feelings. It can be very pleasant, or it can be just a little pleasant, but it's always peaceful and it's always restful. Once we come out of this rest, we use the power that we gathered, the power of concentration, to go on doing our work. To understand the true nature, not just fiddling around with it. We have to understand, and get it very clear in your mind. Avijja is this power that kept us in this realm of rebirth for such a long time. We have to undermine the power, and avijja is trying to understand, or is trying to know. But it will never be able to understand in line with the truth. It only can conclude. But conclusions are not the thing that free us. The truth is the one that makes us free. Seeing the truth. You cannot conclude the truth. It's impossible to conclude the truth. You can only see it. And once you see it, makes you free. The first time you see it, you get into the stream. The second time you see it, you get into Sakadagami, and then Arahant, and then Anagami, and then Arahant. And then you are there in the truth. So it still takes a long time when you count it. It can take up to 7 lifetimes from the first time seeing the truth until the final result of Arahant. So it's sticky. You see it. It's sticky. It's very sticky. So if we don't put our effort and determination into this kind of work, just like the Lord Buddha proposed, to go into places that are lonely or frightening, to go into situations where there is very little, where we have to suffer cold, where we have to suffer hunger, and we have to suffer other unpleasant things. They're all not comfortable. All these places that the Lord Buddha suggested are not comfortable. Not comfortable for our concepts of living. But it's there as an opportunity. These places are there, an opportunity for us to learn. And that's why 100 years ago, in the times of Thanachan Man and Thanachan Sao, people actually went to these places. The bhikkhus went to these places, and that's where they gained enlightenment. They gained enlightenment in the forest, in the trees, on the caves, and so on. They didn't gain enlightenment in a well-fed place. They always gained enlightenment in the forest. That's why this tradition is called the forest tradition, or forest university. The forest is there to teach us. To teach us about all these unpleasant things that always occur. And to face them, to understand their true nature. Until there's nothing anymore to understand. And that's the end of our task. That's the end of our dukkha. So really understand it very well, and please take it to heart. This is the only way how to get there. If you think you can make it on a nice luxury ship that sails around the world with swimming pool and then the best kind of food that you can have, then you're mistaken. You don't see raga tanha, you don't see the power of raga tanha, the power of sensual desires, if you do not abstinate from these sensual desires. Only when you abstinate, you see the power of it. But if you constantly give in, then you just don't see it, and you think you even can think or imagine you don't even have it. Because all the things that you wanted are close by, and you take it whenever you want it. But once you are in a place where you can't just take it, because they are not there, then you see the power of raga tanha. Then you see the power of sensual desires. And then you have to battle it. And if you don't have good tools, you will lose the battle. You will lose the battle of pain, or lose the battle of cold, or lose the battle of hunger, or other sensual desires. So please take it to heart. Really understand it. This is the way of wisdom. This is the way of making the heart understand, of making the citta understand what a fool it is. That it always has run away from the unpleasant things, and there's actually nothing unpleasant about the things itself. And there's nothing pleasant about the things itself. Until it really understands that there is no pleasantness and there is no unpleasantness in the things that are occurring to us. Until that point, only at that point, the citta will let go of this body. And then that point, we will never be reborn. Never ever come back to this earth. We are non-return. So I hope you understand it clearly. Now if there are any questions, then you might ask them now.